Hello, and thanks for joining us again for another edition of the PSRB Lawcast. We try to get together with lawyers from Pellegrini, Seeley, Ryan, and Blakesley and talk about some of the biggest issues that affect personal injury law. As we say all the time, every case is different, and your particular case would require specific information relative to your case. So please just use this as a kind of a guide, but make sure you give a call to our office and talk to a lawyer to get the benefit of advice that's pertinent to your particular case. Today, once again, we're talking to Attorney Sondra Santanelli from the law firm of Pellegrini, Seeley, Ryan, and Blakesley. Hi, Sondra.
Hi, Adam.
So the weather, usually spring, summer, fall, a lot of people think of getting outside, and motorcyclists, this is a big deal for them. This is riding season. But what I want to talk about today is the type of injuries that we see with motorcycle accidents, and also some of the pitfalls in terms of insurance and getting medical bills paid if, in fact, you are in an accident. So what I want to do is really talk a little bit first about the types of injuries that we see with motorcycle accidents. Obviously, you don't have the steel or the airbags of a car around you. What are the typical things that we see with bike accidents?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. It is the warmer season. So we do tend to see an influx of motorcycle accidents, definitely in the spring, summer, and into the fall here at the law firm. It's just by nature, people are out riding in the nice weather. But as a motorcycle operator, we do tend to see more severe injuries associated with them. One of the biggest is severe road rash on the legs, on the arms. We definitely tend to see more fractures, a lot of head injuries. It just is kind of the nature of the beast. It just happens when you have a motorcycle versus a truck or another vehicle. So the injuries do tend to be quite severe. And
I know in Massachusetts, we have a helmet law.
Yes, we do. So Massachusetts has one of the strictest helmet laws in the country. It not only requires that the rider or the operator of the motorcycle wear a helmet, but also any passenger. So if you see someone in the sidecar, if you see someone riding on the back, it's required that they wear a helmet as well. And it's kind of strange because right over the border in Connecticut doesn't have a helmet law at all. And so a lot of times we'll see people, go down to Connecticut to ride their motorcycles with no helmets, which obviously causes a significant danger and issue if there is an accident.
Yeah. And the helmets that you have to wear are state approved, right? There's a certain quality of the helmet that you need.
Yes, exactly. And I don't have those exact requirements in front of me, but they do have to be state approved. And like I said, all riders have to wear them. So the passenger and the actual operator of the motorcycle.
What happens if just for my edification, if a Massachusetts resident goes into Connecticut riding a bike and gets injured in Connecticut? Which law applies, Massachusetts or Connecticut?
It would be Connecticut. So if the bike is owned by the operator and they're a Massachusetts resident, the insurance policy will follow Massachusetts law. But if the accident happened in Connecticut, Connecticut law ultimately applies. So if that person isn't wearing a helmet and the accident is in Connecticut, there wouldn't be a citation or a fine or anything, because technically in Connecticut, you're not breaking the law. But because the bike and the operator are from Massachusetts, their insurance policy under Massachusetts law would apply.
Well, let's talk about insurance, because it's very different for motorcycles and motorcycle operators than it is for insuring your car and getting coverage for yourself in case you're injured or others.
Yes, it is. So in Massachusetts, all motor vehicle operators for cars have to have what's called PIP. It stands for Personal Injury Protection. It's a form of no-fault insurance, which means it will come in and protect you in an accident, whether or not you're at fault. And what it does is it gives you medical protection. So if you're in an accident in a car, instead of your medical bills just going to your health insurance, they'll actually go to your car insurance, and they'll cover up to $8,000 in your medical bills. Now, because motorcycles have been considered what's called inherently dangerous by the insurance companies, motorcycles do not get PIP coverage. So if you are in an accident in a motorcycle, unless you have other forms of coverage to protect you, you won't get that PIP or what we call medical coverage unless you have what's called MedPay, which is an optional policy you can purchase.
Because also PIP will cover not just medical expenses, but also lost wage reimbursement, right?
Yes, up to 75%.
So that's a significant benefit.
Absolutely. It also covers copays and deductibles, everything up to $8,000. So unfortunately, that coverage isn't available to motorcycles, but to protect yourself, you can purchase what's called MedPay.
So let's talk about that. What is MedPay?
Yeah, so MedPay is short for medical protection, or also known as medical payments. And it's a form of coverage you can purchase that's optional on your policy. So if you are in an accident while riding your motorcycle, your coverage will kick in and cover a certain amount of your medical bills. And that depends on how much you purchase.
And can people typically buy that through their insurance agencies, or how do you get that MedPay?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go through your insurance agent, or you can call the company up directly, whatever insurance company you have, and ask to purchase it. And I would strongly recommend it for motorcycles, as there is no PIP protection, and it will give you that extra protection to cover your medical bills, your out-of-pocket expenses related to medical bills, something that you just wouldn't have otherwise.
When someone's in a serious car accident, obviously they have the ability to claim for those injuries against their insurance policy or against the person that hits them. Is it the same process if you get hit in a motorcycle accident? I would think that most motorcycle accidents are defensive in nature, where someone is hit by a car or a truck rather than self-injury, I would assume.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of the motorcycle accidents we see here, it's at no fault of the motorcyclist. It's other people on the road who aren't paying attention or who make a mistake driving their vehicle that causes them injuries. The issue with motorcycle accidents is, like we talked about earlier, based on the nature of being on a motorcycle, those injuries tend to be so much more severe than if you were in a car.
Is the legal process the same in terms of representing them to get the money out of the insurance company or to go after the other policy of the other person involved?
Yes, it would be the exact same process as if you were in a car versus a motorcycle accident. So we would put the at-fault party on notice, and the process would be the same. The value of a case is always based upon, the injuries, the damages, your, the medical treatment that you had to have, your medical bills, your lost time away from work, your out-of-pocket expenses, which is also categorized as your pain and suffering.
Sure.
So yes, it's the same process.
And do the insurance companies act any differently in being willing to settle a motorcycle case versus an automobile case?
Well, like you said at the beginning, every fact of every case is different. So, sometimes we get insurance companies who are a little bit more, I wouldn't say skeptical, but, have the attitude towards motorcyclists. Well, you kind of took an assumption of risk doing that, riding a motorcycle. You know how dangerous it is. But
they wrote the policy.
Yes, exactly. Right. But ultimately, it's what the insurance companies will do is they always look at the liability factor, who's at fault for the accident, and then they'll look at the damages. What injuries were sustained, what medical treatment you had to undergo, how long were you away from your activities and enjoyment of life, your work, all of that.
And of course, replacing the motorcycle.
Yes. Yep. So that's the property damage claim.
Right.
So I always try and tell my clients that there's usually multiple claims for one accident. There's the property damage. There's what we call the bodily injury case. So that's the pain and suffering. And then sometimes if you have PIP or if you have what we call MedPay, there's the medical portion as well.
Well, this has been very interesting. And I know that a lot of people who ride around here, hopefully they'll pay attention to this and make sure they have the appropriate coverage. If you have been in a motorcycle accident and need some legal advice, we've been working on motorcycle accidents for nearly 70 years here. So we hope you'll give Sondra or one of our other attorneys a call at 800-785-5399. You can also find us online at psrblaw.com. Sondra Santanelli, thanks so much.
Thank you, Adam.